Nomenclature of organic compounds and easy way to name organic compounds. Firstly, let me teach you the concept of tetravalent bonds of carbon. The word tetra means 4 and valence means valency. For example, consider this carbon atom. In the last shell of carbon, there are 4 electrons present in it. Carbon needs 4 more electrons to get stability. For instance, 4 hydrogen atoms would share 1 electron each with 4 electrons of carbon. Hence, the octet rule of carbon is completed and the duplet rule of each hydrogen atom is completed. Now listen carefully. A single atom of carbon forms 4 bonds or tetra bonds. Let me repeat it. A single atom of carbon forms 4 bonds or tetra bonds. Thus we say that carbon forms tetravalent bonds or 4 bonds. Also note it down that carbon can form single bonds, double bonds and triple bonds. Therefore remember that overall a single carbon atom forms 4 bonds or tetravalent bonds. Now let me teach you the easy method of naming organic compounds. Firstly, write the root words. For example, when there is 1 carbon atom, it is called meth, 2 carbons, it is eth, 3 carbons, it is prop, 4 carbons, it is bute, 5 carbons, it is pent, 6 carbons, it is hex, 7 carbons, it is hept, 8 carbons, it is oct, 9 carbons, it is non, and 10 carbons, it is dec. Secondly, at one corner of the page, write down that when there is all single bonds between carbon atoms, they are alkanes. We use N for it. When there is one double bond between carbon atoms, they are alkenes and we use ene for it. When there is one triple bond between carbon atoms, they are alkynes and we use ine for it. Now we will learn naming alkanes. For example, consider this one carbon. It forms 4 single bonds with 4 hydrogen atoms. There is only 1 carbon, so we write meth. This carbon forms all single bonds. It is alkane and we write N with meth. So we get methane. Remember that prefix like meth shows the number of carbon atoms and suffix like N shows the type of organic compounds like alkane. Secondly, consider 2 carbon atoms. This carbon atom has formed 1 bond, so it will make 3 more bonds with 3 hydrogen atoms. This carbon has formed 1 bond, so it will make 3 more bonds with 3 hydrogen atoms. There are 2 atoms of carbon. I write eth. All the carbon bonds are single. I write N. So I get ethane. Thirdly, consider 4 atoms of carbon. This carbon atom has formed 1 bond. It will make 3 more bonds with 3 hydrogen atoms. This carbon has formed 2 bonds. It will make 2 more bonds with 2 hydrogen atoms. This carbon has formed 2 bonds. It will make 2 more bonds with 2 hydrogen atoms. This carbon has formed only 1 bond. It will make 3 more bonds with 3 hydrogen atoms. There are 4 carbon atoms. I will write bute. All the carbon bonds are single. I write N. So I get butane. Fourthly, consider 7 carbon atoms. Pause the video and try to name this organic compound. Well, this carbon and this carbon form 1 single bond, so I write H3 and H3. The rest of the carbon forms 2 bonds each, so I write H2, 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 H2 and H2. There are 7 carbon atoms present in it. I write hept. They all form single bonds. I write N. So I get heptane. Thus by this way, we can easily name any alkane by knowing the total number of carbon and all bonds must be single. Now we are going to learn naming alkenes. For example, consider double bonds between these 2 carbon atoms. This carbon and this carbon have formed two bonds, so I write H2 and H2. There are two carbon atoms, I write eth. We can see that there is one double bond between these two carbon atoms, so it is alkene, and we write ene with it, thus we get ethene. Secondly, consider these three carbon atoms. Let there is single bond between these two carbon atoms, and there is double bond between these two carbon atoms. This carbon has formed two bonds, I write H2. This carbon has formed three bonds, I write only H. This carbon has formed one bond, I write H3. There are three carbon atoms present in this molecule, I write prop. There is one double bond, I write ene. So I get propene. Similarly, consider these four carbon atoms. Let there is one double bond between carbon and carbon atoms. This carbon has formed two bonds, write H2. This carbon has formed three bonds, write H. This carbon has formed two bonds, write H2. This carbon has formed one bond, write H3. There are four carbons present in this molecule, I write but. Also there is one double bond, I write ene. So I get butene. Now consider six carbon atoms in which there is one double bond. Pause the video and try to name it. Well, this carbon has already formed two bonds, write H2. This carbon has formed three bonds, write H. These three carbon atoms have formed two bonds each, write H2, H2 and H2 with them. This carbon has formed one bond, write H3. There are six carbon atoms present in this molecule, I write hex. Also we know that there is one double bond present in it, I write ene. So I get hexene. Thus by this way, we can easily name alkenes by knowing the number of carbons and double bond present between carbon atoms. Now we are going to learn naming alkynes. For example, consider these two carbon atoms having one triple bond. This carbon and this carbon have already formed three bonds each, so I write H and H. There are two carbon atoms in this molecule, I write eth. Also there is triple bond present between carbon atoms, it is alkyne, and we write ine for it, so I get ethyne. Secondly, consider these four atoms of carbon in which there is one triple bond. This carbon has formed three bonds, write H. This carbon has formed four bonds, so leave it. This carbon has formed two bonds, write H2. This carbon has formed one bond, write H3. There are four carbon atoms present in this molecule, I write but. Also there is one triple bond, I write ine. So I get butane. Thus using this method, we can easily name alkynes by knowing the number of carbons and triple bond between carbon atoms.